Hi, welcome to Russ Recaps. In today's video, I will be explaining a crime and action movie titled Town, which was released in 2010. Spoilers ahead, so be warned, and let's get started. The movie begins in Boston, where a bank's armored truck is parked at the curb while a man named Doug MacRay is explaining their heist plan to his gang of best friends, James Coughlin, Albert Magloan, and Desmond Elden. As one of the guards enters the bank, the team rushes out of their decoy van into the bank, bringing guns and using skeleton masks. They make sure that everyone is on the floor and away from any electronics that can warn the police. One of them gets the key to the bank vault storage from the guard, while James ransacks the teller's drawers for cash, careful not to take ones that are hidden dye packs and tracers. Meanwhile, Desmond goes to disable the security tapes and destroy them. They also lock the front door with a cable tie. The gang waits for the right time when the guard is supposed to take money from inside the safe before ordering the assistant branch manager named Claire Keesey to open the vault door. She's understandably too nervous to properly open the lock, so Doug holds her hand and tells her to calm down and take her time. She tries to open the vault again, successfully this time. Doug enters the vault and starts taking the money into his bag. Outside, a bank customer is trying to get inside through the tie-up front door, distracting the gang. Taking advantage of this, Claire trips the silent alarm using her foot. Eventually, Desmond tells the gang that someone tripped the alarm, which causes James to start lashing out at the branch manager before Doug stops him. This is when Claire sees the tattoo at the back of James' neck, before the gang douses bleach on every surface they touch to prepare for their escape. Wary about the police catching them, James decides to take Claire hostage. They put her in the back of the van, blindfold her, and tie up her wrists. Doug tells her that they're not going to hurt her before they leave her on the beach, and tell her not to remove her blindfold until she walks forward and feels the water on her feet. Back at the bank, FBI special agents Adam Frawley and Dino Clampa investigate the crime scene. They see the gang has done their heist well, avoiding being tracked. The agents are informed that they found the getaway van, which has been burned to cover the gang's tracks. They determine that they are dealing with a new gang of grand robbers, since all the others are either in prison or dead. Meanwhile, the gang meets up at an abandoned hockey rink. James tells the others that Claire can be a problem, since judging by her driver's license, she lives in the neighborhood and might recognize them if she sees them. James plans to kill her, but Doug takes her license and says that he will take care of her himself. Later, Claire shows up at the FBI agent's office to tell them about the robbery and kidnapping that she endured. She tells them about her stolen license and their threats to kill her if she talks to the police. However, she doesn't tell them about James's tattoo when Adam asks about any distinguishing marks. He then explains how 98% of bank robbers come from the Charlestown neighborhood, which surprises Claire as she lives there. Adam gives her his business card and tells her that she'll be given protection before releasing her from the office. We then see Doug and James do various stuff to clean traces of the money they have stolen. It's evident that Doug doesn't seem too happy with his current lifestyle as a criminal, even becoming a recovering alcoholic, drinking juice while his friends drink beer. He doesn't seem to like his racist girlfriend, Coughlin, who is James's sister, as she tells him a story about fighting a Somalian woman and then barging into Doug's apartment later that night to have sex with him. When his mind's burden causes him to lose sleep, Doug plays with a hockey puck to ease his mind. The next day, Doug starts to stalk Claire, who's doing her laundry at a laundromat. Claire approaches him to ask for any change she can borrow, but he says he doesn't have any. After Claire gets a flashback of the robbery and starts to cry, Doug uses the chance to ask if she's okay. He then asks her out for a coffee to cheer her up. He takes her to a restaurant and talks about Doug's interest in hockey and about his made-up life. Meanwhile, Claire shares that she moved to Charlestown from a town where having a boat is a show of status. As Doug is attracted to Claire, he suggests that they continue their date on his friend's boat. The next day, Doug meets James in a diner and lies to James about his progress with Claire, saying he got nothing and he thinks she doesn't need to die. We move to Adam and Dino, who got clues about the gang from a crackhead named Henry, saying the gang disabled the vault alarm through the junction box. The agents investigate the box outside of the bank while the crew is working on fixing it. They conclude that in order to break into the box, one of the gang members must work Vericom, the company that makes the junction box, and may have called in sick the day of the robbery. Meanwhile, Doug is having another date with Claire when he learns that she went to the police, though she didn't tell them about James's tattoo, and the agents haven't identified his gang yet. The two then visit the bank's branch manager, who is still hospitalized due to his injuries from the robbery. causing Doug to feel even more remorseful. While taking Claire home, Doug sees her vandalized car, and she admits that she has been harassed by some of the neighborhood men. Doug asks for their description and asks James to help find them, not to mention that it has to do with Claire. They get the men's address and barge in with hockey masks and bats before beating up the two men in question. Doug scatters some cocaine around to make it seem like a drug deal gone wrong before leaving. The FBI agents who have identified Desmond, who works as a systems tech operator for Vericom, and were absent the day of the robbery. He was also absent during other instances of recent bank and armored car robberies. They follow Desmond and take pictures of him with Doug, James, and Albert. They research the other gang members and find that Albert is a renowned car thief. James shot a boy dead when he was 18, and Doug, who they suspect is the mastermind, is the son of an imprisoned bank robber and started robbing banks himself when he got kicked out of the pro hockey team. One day when Doug and Claire are on a date, James suddenly shows up to confront Doug for lying when Claire went to the restroom. She returns and Doug has to cover up James's tattoo until he ultimately leaves. After the date, Doug confronts James for stalking him, but James berates Doug for sleeping with the witness. They also argue about the condition of their next planned attack, since Doug thinks the assigned guard is a risk. Eventually, Doug agrees to do it only if it's their last job for a while. After he visits his father in prison, Doug finally has sex with Claire before preparing meticulously with his gang for the planned attack on an armored bank truck the next morning. They drive to the ambush location in a van packed with gasoline in the trunk and discover that the armored truck is running late. After they circle the block to avoid suspicion, they see the armored truck pulling over and prepare their equipment. Albert stops the van next to the armored truck while Doug and James attack the guards and break into the truck, loading the money into a bag. Albert hears a robbery notice on his police scanner and urges his friend to hurry, but the missing truck driver has taken Doug hostage, aiming a gun at his back. James manages to shoot the driver, who survives due to his bulletproof vest, and the gang manages to speed off with the stolen money. However, a police car notices them and starts to chase them. Joined by other police cars, Albert tries to outrun the police, but a maneuver by the police causes him to lose control of the van as it spins before stopping. The two police cars stop in front of the gang's car, and an officer tells them to get out. Suddenly, James starts to fire at the police, followed by Doug, and starts a gunfight while Albert drives the van to escape the police blockade. One police car continues to chase them, and another one suddenly shows up and scrapes the side of the gang's van before Albert manages to lose the car. While still being chased by the other police car, a jeep driven by Desmond stops in front of them, stopping all the cars and making everyone come outside before James starts to fire bullets at the officers once more. While the officers take cover, Doug moves the money to the jeep and burns the van with gasoline and a cigarette. The gang hops into the jeep and drives away as the van explodes. They plan to escape through the Charlestown bridge, but the police scanner tells them that the officers are planning to block the end of the bridge and to catch them. Albert speeds up and takes shortcuts to successfully cross the bridge long before the police arrive. They park the jeep somewhere in Charlestown before spreading some hair they got from a barbershop to cover their identities. When they are preparing to move everything to a different car, they see an officer parked across the street look at them. However, the officer prefers to live, so he acts like he doesn't see the gang, and they successfully change cars before driving away. Meanwhile, the FBI agents are investigating the burnt van. Adam is upset over the lack of evidence to convict the gang, but orders the police to bring them in for questioning anyway. Unfortunately for Adam, the gang is much smarter than he anticipated. They all manage to avoid giving away any information in their own unique ways. Eventually, Adam is forced to release all of them, while he threatens Doug that he will do whatever it takes to make a charge for the gang. Later, James invites Doug to do another job, which he initially turns down, until Fergus Combe, the local crime boss, threatens to kill Claire if Doug refuses to do the job. While Desmond deactivates the security system, Doug and James enter a bank disguised as police officers. They pretend to respond to a 911 call before ambushing the nearby guards with guns and tying them up. They then force the workers to let them in the vault and proceed to take $3 million before heading to their getaway car, which is an ambulance, and change into paramedic uniforms. However, they realize that the police have surrounded them, and James starts to open fire once the FBI SWAT team enters the garage they're parked in. The shootout causes Desmond to get shot and die, while Albert sacrifices his life to protect Doug and James by crashing the ambulance into the mobile command center. Doug and James change back into their police uniforms to blend in with other cops before leaving and separating. Their plan almost worked, but Adam got caught onto their ruse and decided to search the area. He and Dino find an officer walking away from the scene with a duffel bag, which turns out to be James. Adam follows him to a parking lot and calls out to James, which results in him getting fired at by the criminal. James manages to run away after pinning Adam down, but Adam gets back on his feet to chase him. James gets surrounded by more officers as he continues to open fire, causing an intense gunfight, while Doug can only watch nearby. Eventually, Adam manages to shoot James' leg with a shotgun, leaving James to crawl behind a mailbox to think of another plan. More officers and the SWAT team surround him, aiming their guns at the mailbox, as Adam tells James to surrender. After emptying his bullets on a police car, James comes out of hiding to surrender, only to be repeatedly shot at by many officers. While James falls dead, Doug sneaks into a police car and drives away unnoticed. Doug stops by Fergus's place to kill his bodyguard and have a gunfight with him, eventually killing him. He then calls Claire from a nearby house, telling her to come with him while he sees her in a room together with the FBI agents. Claire then gives him a code to signal that the FBI is with her, so Doug disguises himself as a bus driver and gets on a train heading south. Adam realizes that Doug won't show up when he noticed Claire giving him a coded message, so he leaves only to find a mocking note from Doug on his windshield. The movie ends with Claire finding a buried bag while gardening. It contains money, a tangerine, and a note from Doug suggesting that she can make better use of the money than he can, and that they might see each other again. Claire donates the money to refurbish the local hockey rink where Doug once played. Meanwhile, Doug is safe but seems dejected now that he's hiding in Florida away from Claire. That's all for today's movie recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this, and tell us what movie recaps you want to see next in the comments below. See you soon.